A function is a pre-constructed formula that helps us simplify some of the more complicated computations. And just like functions in other programming languages, there are a couple of things we need to consider. We need to consider the syntax or the rules for constructing that particular function, and then we also need to consider the arguments, so the values that we would use as input for the function. So let's go over some of the more common functions that you would use in Excel. First, we would have equals sum, and then we can put numbers inside some parentheses. Now here I have a couple dots at the end just to show that we can have any number of arguments that we want in here. In fact, I think it goes up to like 127, but I don't think you're ever going to actually do that in a spreadsheet. So the whole point here is that we can put in however many numbers we want as arguments. And what this function does is it would add up or sum the numbers within a set or a range of cells. So I can put in specific cells. We can even do a range of cells. And we'll show some examples of that a little bit later. But the whole point here is that the sum function where we do equal sum will just allow us to compute the sum of all the cells in the parentheses. We have the average function, which, well, it's simply going to calculate the arithmetic mean for all the values in the list, or compute the average of all the values. We have the min function, so it just equals min, and this will give us the smallest value of all the cells in the list. And then finally we have the max function, which will help us get the largest value of all the cells inside the parentheses. We have a few more functions to take a look at. We have what's called the count function, and this works a little bit differently. This actually will count the number of cells in the range that's within the parentheses that contains numerical data. So what this is saying is, if I have a bunch of cells and I put those as arguments in this function, it's going to tell me how many of those cells have numbers in them. If they have just text or letters, or if they're spaces or blanks, those don't get counted. It only counts the cells that have numbers in them. Now there is a variation that's called count A, and this will count the number of cells that are not blank, or at least the number of cells that have something in it. It could be numbers, it could be text, it could be special characters like punctuation marks and quotes and all that good stuff, but it's going to count the number of cells that have something in it. They're just not blank at all. We also have the median function, and this will find the midpoint value in the set of values. So that it's going to find the median of the list of numbers, the middle number, if this were in some order. Now, if we happen to have an even number of values, the function will actually take the average of the two middle numbers. Because if we have an odd number of values, there's only going to be one and only one middle number. But if we have an even number of values in our list, then it'll just get the average of what would be considered the two middle values. The next function we'll take a look at is the now function. And this just simply displays the current date and time in a cell. So it'll just display both information in a single cell. There is a variation of it called today, which just simply displays the current date. And notice that in both of these functions, we don't have any arguments inside the parentheses. And that's because there are some functions where there just aren't any arguments. That's perfectly fine. So we still need to include the parentheses. That way Excel realizes that it is a function, but it's just there's nothing in between it. Now the next function we're going to take a look at is a little different from what we've seen before. You probably have never used this function before. It's called the rank function. And in here there are two main arguments, and then there's a third optional argument. So the value in list and list of values are required arguments, and this order argument is an option. So the way this works is we're going to find the position of a value assuming the list of values is sorted. Okay, so the first argument is some value that's in some set of values that we're concerned with, so some list. And then the second argument is going to be an actual range of values. So maybe it's a column, maybe it's a row, but it is some cell range that contains a list of values. Now, the values in this list may be sorted, they may not be sorted. That's not the issue. The way the rank function works is assume, or I shouldn't even say assume, let's just suppose that we took the values in this list and we sorted it in some order, whether ascending or descending order. And that's where this order argument comes into place. We can either decide whether it's ascending or descending order. So when we do this sorting, we can actually assign a rank to each of those values. So like for example, if we sorted this list in ascending order, the smallest value would have rank 1, and then the next smallest would have rank 2, and so forth. So what this function will do is it'll take the value that's in our that we're looking at. So the first argument is some value in the list. And if this list were sorted, it doesn't actually sort the list, but if it were sorted, this function will display the rank of that value. So where does it fall in line with comparison to the other values in the list? So if it happens to be the smallest value in the list and we sorted this in ascending order, then it would return a rank 1. Now, let's say there's like 10 items and this is the largest item in the list, then the rank would be 10. Or if this were in descending order and this was the largest number, then it would be rank 1. But that's the whole point here. This rank function just gives us the actual ranking of this value with respect to everything else in the list. So now that we've gone over several different types of functions, let's just try them out in Excel and see what we get. So first things first, we need to put in some values. Okay, so let's see here. That's close enough. Okay. And just to help us out here, I'm going to type out the functions that we're going to do. So we'll do sum here. We'll do average. We'll do min, max. We'll do count, count A. We'll do median. We'll do now, today. And then I'm going to do something different for rank. So what I'm going to do here is in column D, I'm just going to put the resulting function for this column numbers that we have in column A. So to do this, as we mentioned already, we'll do equal sign and then I'll do sum. And notice down here that I actually have the list of arguments, which is pretty convenient. So if you don't remember the arguments for a function, it gives it to you. Now in this case, I want to get the range A1 to A10. So I could do A1, comma, A2, comma, A3, and so forth, but that's a little tedious. What if we had like a huge column? So what we can do instead is specify a column range. And there are two ways to do it. I'll show one way with sum, and then I'll show the other way with average. So you could put in the first cell you have in the range. So in this case, it's A1. And then if you put in a colon, and then a cell for the last cell in the range, so in this case, A10, it will grab the entire range here. So now if I hit enter, we get the sum here. And I believe the sum of all those numbers is in fact 55. So that's one way we can do this. So let's try the same thing with average now. So I'm going to do equals average, but instead of typing in the cell range, I can just click and drag to select my range. So this also works. You can either type in the cell range or you can click and drag your cell range and then you get your result. Now you might be thinking, well, that's great for one column, but what if I have like a small sheet? What would be my range? Well, your range is going to be, the starting cell will be the top leftmost cell, and then your last cell will be the bottom rightmost cell. So that would be your cell range if you do something like that. I'll show a quick example with min. So we do equals min if we want to get the min. So I could do something like this. So we see here that the range would be A1 to B10. Now that doesn't make too much sense because there's nothing in column B, but that's how we can select a range that involves multiple columns and multiple rows. So we'll change this to A10. And sure enough, the minimum value here is 1. So we can do the same thing for max. So we'll drag and get our range. Max is sure enough 10. Now what if we do count? So if we do count, so we're going to get the cell range here. And sure enough, there should be 10 things in here that have something. Now if I take out one of these, maybe I'll take out that number. We see here that the count is now 9. So we still get this entire range. There are 10, we still have 10 cells to work with, but only 9 of them actually have numbers in there. And let me try something else here just to kind of show you. Let's say I put a letter in here. Count is still 9 because it is counting how many cells have numbers in there. So this A doesn't do any good. Now this is where count A comes into play. I can do equals count A,
and get my range. And then this is going to count the number of cells that have something in there. So now if I put A in here, it says there are 10 things because this is no longer blank. So it's counting how many cells have something in it. I can even do punctuation marks. So that also works. So what did I have in here before? What was it? I think 9? Yeah, 9. We'll just kind of keep it consistent with what we had before. So for median, I can do equals median and do the cell range. And it's 5.5 because here we have an even number of values. So we take the two middle values and get the average. So that's how we get 5.5. And then for now, we can just do equals now. So you can see that at the time here, this was recorded on January 7th, 2016. And this uses military time, but it is 12:24 a.m. at the time I'm doing this recording. Yes, I am doing it at midnight. Deal with it. But that is the now function. And I can do today. So I can do equals today. Once again, no arguments are needed for this. I can hit enter. And sure enough, it gives me the date. Now let's take a look at rank. So I'm going to do a little something different with rank here. So I'm going to put it in column F. And I'm going to start here. I'm going to show you why I'm doing this. And actually, let me... the more I think about it, this is probably not going to be a good example. So let me put in some new values in here. I'm going to do 15, 14, 16, 7, 13, 22, 22 88, 19, 100, 10. There you go. There's a reason why I'm doing this, because otherwise if I use rank for these numbers, it's going to look like the same. We really don't get the idea of rank if I use these numbers. So I'm going to put rank in column H here. So we'll do equals rank. It even gives you a description here. Returns the rank of a number in a list of numbers, its size relative to other values in the list. If more than one value has the same rank, the average is returned. So what we're doing here is, suppose our list is sorted, then we would get where that would rank in that sorted list is what we're getting here. So my number in this case, I'm going to use 15 here, so F1. And then my reference here is going to be the cell range. So I'm going to select the cell range, but since I'm going to actually copy this, and I don't want it to change. Let me show you what happens if I don't make this absolute. Okay, so this is 6. Because if this thing were sorted, this would be the 6th spot in the list. Makes sense. Now, let me copy this for you. So see, I get another 6, 5, 7, 3, 2, 2, and a couple ones. That should not happen with the rank. And this is because if I look down here, well, let's take a look at my range. There's my cell range. There's only one thing in there. So, of course, the rank of that's going to be 1. So this is why absolute cell references are important. So I'm going to make this absolute by using F4. I'm going to make this absolute. So now let's copy this. And here we go. So what this is saying is if we sort this in some order, so in this case, we're sorting from, looks like from largest to smallest. So here 100 ranks 1 because it's the largest value. 88 is second, and so forth. So this is, the default is from largest to smallest. So let's say I change this, because I can do that. So I can do it, add the optional parameter. So 0 is descending from largest to smallest. So let's do ascending order. So we'll do it from smallest to largest. And then I'll copy this stuff down again. And sure enough, here, rank 1 corresponds to the smallest number in this list. And then rank 2, here's the second smallest. And here's the third smallest, and so forth. But yeah, that's pretty much how all you do your functions. You just hit equal sign and then your function and then the appropriate arguments.